Did you know 1 in 10 children is diagnosed with ADHD? That 1 in 5 children have a learning issue being addressed by the school, and 2.4 million children have some kind of learning disability.
So, what are learning disabilities? Well, the term learning disabilities is kind of like a blanket because it covers a number of different disorders. Learning disabilities affect how a person takes in verbal or nonverbal information, how they sort, organize, and retrieve that information, their ability to remember it, and even their level of understanding. People who have a learning disability can struggle with spoken language, listening, speaking, and understanding. Reading and writing can be a challenge, and math can be a real hard stone to move. And just like how people's taste in fashion can range from socks and sandals to high fashion on the catwalk, learning disabilities can also range in their severity and how they affect people. Many people with learning disabilities are very intelligent, even gifted. With the right help, they're able to learn just as well as anyone. The alarm bells ring and the red flag is raised that someone might have a learning disability if they need an unusual amount of effort and help to be successful, or if they are unexpectedly underachieving at school or work. The impact of having a learning disability and the challenges that often come along for the ride, including attention, organization, social skills, anxiety, and others, can change as a person goes through life. From school to home to soccer practice, every person with learning disabilities is unique and remains unique as they travel through life.
There is more than one type of learning disabilities. The first one is dyslexia, which is a language and reading disability. The second one is dyscalculia, which is problems with arithmetic and math concepts. The third one is dysgraphia, a writing disorder resulting in illegibility. The fourth one is dyspraxia, which is a sensory integration disorder, which is problems with motor coordination. There are 2 types of learning disabilities. The first one is non-academic, which includes visual motor problems, which can be fine or gross. It also includes phonological processing problems, language problems, perceptual problems, and memory problems, which include visual memory and auditory memory. The second type of learning disability is academic. This includes reading, arithmetic and math, spelling, writing, which includes composition and mechanical coordination. Learning disabilities are based on the individual and tend to have a narrow biological basis as well as existing because of some type of dysfunction in the brain, not because of external factors such as limited experience or poor teaching. Learning disabilities tend to have the characteristics of unexpected underachievement, and the disorder exists when a student's academic achievement is significantly below his or her intellectual potential. This occurs even after various types of intensive systematic interventions have been implemented to try to reduce the learning gap. Learning disabilities are not a result of other disorders or problems. However, individuals with learning disabilities could have other special needs. An example of this could be being deaf cannot be the basis for having a learning disability. On the other hand, some students who are deaf also have learning disabilities, but the two do not go hand in hand. A learning disability is different from either intellectual disability or emotional disability. Currently, 5% of all students enrolled in public schools are identified as having a learning disability, with 42% of these students receiving special education services. 65% of all students identified with a learning disability are male. Initially, it is hard to identify a student with a learning disability. The first clue is commonly a problem in academic work. Other symptoms may include lack of attentiveness in class, thoughtless, impulsive, overly active behavior, frequent mood shifts, difficulty in remembering symbols, lack of motor coordination in writing or play activities, apparent problems in speaking or listening, and other difficulties in completing academic work. Common problems involved in learning disabilities. People that have learning disabilities typically have an average or above average intelligence. They may experience weakness in one or more areas. A learning disability may involve cognitive, academic, or social emotional characteristics. Cognitive characteristics of learning disabilities. Perception is a cognitive characteristic of learning disabilities that does not deal with the student hearing or seeing specifically, but relates to how the brain of that student interprets information and how they act based on this. Organization with learning disabilities deals with how a student can deal with classifying, associating, and sequencing information. Generalization is a situation that is hard for people with learning disabilities in relation to cognitive characteristics, because this deals with applying the information that he/she learned and applying it to situation. This requires the person to be able to understand and apply this information. Academic characteristics. Oral language is a problematic situation for people with learning disabilities because it could be difficult to make sure to use the right sounds to form complete words and sentences. If the person struggles with oral language, this may make overall communication more difficult, which can lead to increased frustration in communication. Written language is especially hard for those who struggle with writing and all the characteristics that go along with writing, such as spelling, punctuation, capitalization, or understand word forms. Social emotional characteristics can be detrimental to those with learning disabilities because those with said disabilities may not be able to pick up on these cues and tend to face higher amounts of depression, social rejection, loneliness, and even increased suicidal thoughts. What causes learning disabilities? For the most part, the cause of learning disabilities is unknown. One impact to the cause of learning disabilities is neurological dysfunctions. Teratogens are substances that can cause damage to the fetus due to malformation, and these can lead to learning disabilities because this causes brain deformations and abnormalities. Effects and interventions of learning disabilities on children. Effects of learning disabilities include learned helplessness, reaction, low self-esteem, and social competence. Learned helplessness reaction is something that people who have disabilities may develop when they feel like they have failed so many times that it's not even worth their time anymore to try to learn. They depend on other people to do their work for them. Low self-esteem is another factor that works in relation to learned helplessness. Students may feel low levels of self-esteem when they see others doing things that they cannot feel inferior to their peers. Social competence is another effect of learning disabilities on children, and this occurs when students with disabilities have more difficult time reading and interpreting social situations, which can cause inappropriate responses or reactions. Interventions for learning disabilities. Cognitive training can assist in helping those with learning disabilities, and this is a method that focuses on procedures to teach children with learning disabilities how to change their patterns of thinking to emphasize. Various tactics. Tactic 1 is changing thought process. Tactic 2 is providing strategies for learning. Tactic 3 is teaching self-initiative. Self-instruction is a cognitive technique that helps to make the students aware of the problem solving that takes the tasks that need to be accomplished and which actions and behaviors should result. Direct instruction is a major approach that works to improve math and reading skills by drilling and practicing the skills needed to accomplish a specific task. This can be done in small groups in order to get more direct instruction to be less intimidating and more personal. Policies have been put in place to achieve social justice for children who have learning and other disabilities. This work is being done to ensure that students with learning disabilities are getting the resources they need to succeed and have additional instruction in their IEPs in order to exercise their right to education and have the best treatment possible. There is no excuse for schools to not be able to provide for these students.